Hey everyone, Egman here with another video. We've got the new secret rare, Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta, surprise to no one. And then real quick, what this video is going to go over him, and then also I kind of want to talk about secret rares in general, kind of their strength and kind of their place in the game and stuff, and stuff like that. So let's go into it. I've already read this, so this isn't a react, but so it's an 8-drop, but you can EX evolve by placing all cards from your hand other than this card into drop area, and then you on top of a blue Gogeta with energy cost 7 or more. I don't know if you can do this if it's the only card in your hand, but it seems like you can, so that's cool. It's critical. It has Union Fusion also for 6 energy if you need to do it that way, and it's Ultimate and Deflect, and then also Active Main Sparking 15. You choose one Son Goku and one Vegeta card from your drop area, place them at the bottom of your deck, and switch this card to active mode. So, and one thing that I didn't know, like I thought, oh, this card seems kind of bad, and then what made it a little bit better is that its active main it's not once per turn, so if you got just like your whole deck in your drop area, you can just keep doing those Gokus and Vegetas and keep attacking as long as you still have 15 or more in your drop area. So, like, the combo would be, play the 7-drop, attack, combo with your entire hand if you can, if the attack doesn't get negated, and it probably won't because they'll have to shuffle back up to 3 cards, and then if that doesn't do it, then you can play this card and keep attacking. So yeah, seems pretty strong to me. What else? Yeah, and so a lot of people are like, man, this card's not really impressive, or oh, I'd play this if it has like double strike or triple strike, because the 7-drop has double strike or triple strike. But I think this card will see its place in the into the Gogeta deck, and let's talk about why, and kind of comparing it to other secret rares, which kind of are similar to this in a lot of ways, but why I think this card is better than those. So when talking about secret rares and how strong they are, there's kind of three points that I've thought about that kind of determine if they can be used or not. The first is searchability. You can only run one ultimate card, and there are a lot of ways in this game where a card can just be not used forever. If it gets like hit to the drop, if it's stuck in your life, there's always at least 1 or 2 cards you'll never see because they're stuck at your life. And additionally, some of these don't have like really good searches for them. So if there are a lot of games you just won't see this. So there's no consequence for having it in your deck, yes, but it was just never seen. So it's hard to make it your win condition, I guess. I'd say Victory Strike is the exception to this, but we'll get into that. But it's not. You have a hard time making it your win condition, or having a deck without an alternative win condition because of that. So next is kind of the strength of the archetype and how easy it is to pull off. What I mean by that is that all of these cards are based on an archetype. This is based on Dark Overrealm, this is based on World Tournament, this is based on Vegeto, this is based on Universe 7, this is based on Goku GT, and this is based off of Swap. So Goku's lineage. So none of these cards can really be played outside of their archetype. I'd say Demigra is the only exception to that one, but we'll get to that. But yeah, most of the times you can only put these cards in really specific decks already, and if the deck around that card isn't really strong, then this card is not really strong, right? Because you can't, like, for example, for Vegeto, probably one of the lesser secret rares right now, you have to not only make a Goku Vegeta, fusion deck, but you also have to make sure that you can get these guys on field with 5 specific red energy in a blue deck. So you have to almost, have to play the Vegeto leader that makes all the energy, all colors. So that's a tall order to ask for, I feel like, and the cards around those, having only Gokus and Vegetas mainly, that is not strong enough to warrant, making a deck for this card. And additionally, this card is it's not very searchable, right? And then lastly, the third point I'd like to say is probably the strength of the card. This is probably like the most, how I say this point is kind of the least important. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but like it can be important. So like once again, Victory Strike is probably the most powerful because it just wins you the game. So that's really cool. But like a lot of these are obviously really powerful, and most of them have to deal with kind of cheating life in some way or another. I would say that that this guy is probably the weakest of the all secret rares in terms of ability, and I think that's okay because I think he gets pretty good on the other two real quick. So let's talk about these and go through the points. So I'm going to start with After Victory Strike because he's the exception. So one, he's very searchable. Like there are so many cards that say look at the top 7 are if you use the Universe 7 Frieza, there's a lot of ways to cycle through your hand and through your deck to get this. And additionally, you can get down to 1 life really easily by playing that 5-drop Goku who can just keep taking 2 life. So as long as it's not the last card in your deck or the last card in your life, even if it's the last card in your deck, like your deck's going to be shuffled, and you're going to be thinning it, you're going to look for 7, you're going to find this card, I'd say, like, more times than not. Like, enough times that you can dedicate a deck to this and be okay with losing a game to not finding it, because you'll probably, 2/3 of the time you'll probably still find it. So that's fine. The strength of the archetype and how easy it is to pull off. The Universe 7 archetype is really strong. There are a lot of good Universe 7 cards. Frieza as a leader is really good. And additionally, it's just super strong. And there's also it's really easy to pull this guy off. You just play the 5-drop, you evolve him into the 7-drop, and then you evolve the 7-drop into this. I know it's a bit of a chain, but like it's a really straightforward chain as long as you get to 5 energy and you can awaken. And you even have to, because the 5-drop Goku also awakens you, because it takes you, if you're not already awakened or don't have the chance to be, that's how you do it. So really strong in that sense, and probably one of the, once again, strong. And then strength of the card, you win the game. So that's, you can't get more powerful than that. It's like the only way you get more powerful is like you win the match, right? But yeah, so this, I'd say that's why Awakened Power is probably the best one right now. It's why it's like $200, especially because it's like a short print set, secret rare too. So rip me for not buying it for $100 a couple months ago. And going down the line, let's go to Demigra. And so I'd say the searchability of this card is probably pretty low. You find it or you're not. The strength of the archetype. So Demigra is a little bit different, is because the archetype for him is probably the loosest of all of them. You just have to say I run 7 black cards, right? And that's pretty easy to do. And I'd say that's probably the least restrictive of all these super rare or secret rares because of that, and that's why it's seeing some fringe play in Hercule decks. And then also the strength of the card. The strength's pretty good. Like it's really straightforward. You just get a triple strike. You're not 4 from their hand, so that's really powerful. As long as they don't have Crusher Ball, that's fine. But I mean, if you're running black cards, you're probably running minus Killing Zone anyway, so you don't get Crusher Balled. But just pure hand destruction. And if they don't have a negate, that's a triple strike, 60k automatically, and they have no cards in hand. So that's an almost guaranteed triple strike if you can either battering their negate or whatever. So really powerful card. And so that's why it's being seen a lot of play in Hercule decks, just because even though this card isn't really searchable, Hercule has a lot of cycle and a lot of card draw. So it's not unknown to draw into this card, and then if you don't, you just run like some of the 6-drop Foos, which more or less do the same thing. You just wait until turn 5 or 6 and drop a really big baddie, and your opponent can't really handle it. And yeah, so that's why this card's been seeing a little bit play over the last couple of months. Actually, because people were making it to turn 5 again. Wow, what a crazy game we're playing. So that's why this card's good. After that, I'd say either Son Goku and Oob or Super Saiyan 4, but let's go to Oob, and actually we'll go to this. So this card it's double strike dual attack, which is pretty good. The searchability is really high. It's probably just as high as the Goku, just because like where the deck sees play is probably Announcer the most, just because Announcer has a lot of card draw. It doesn't matter about blue energy because all the energy is colorless. And your World Tournament, right? So it's really good, and it has the World Tournament tag too, so you can search through it. You can boost it with your leader. You can find it through the 1-drop Announcer. Just a lot of card draw anyway, so it's really good in that sense. The strength of the archetype are easy to pull off. So I'd say the biggest setback about this card is that your opponent and you both have to have 6 energy. So that's kind of weird. And if you pull it off the 1-drop announcer and you have to show it to your opponent because it's a war tournament, your opponent's going to be like, oh, okay, cool, don't charge the 6, got it, I won't do that. And I don't think that's like a really big handicap at the moment. A lot of people can win at 5 energy, I think, pretty easily. So that's the only thing. I think the strength of the archetype is pretty strong, but I think the strength of the card is a little bit weaker in that sense. So it's kind of weird, right? But like I guess when you actually pull the strength of the card out, like when this card attacks, choose up to 1 card from each of your opponent's life and energy areas, and place them in the bottom of your deck in any order, and you get to do a dual attack. So you know it's an automatic 2 damage if you get this card off, as long as you don't get Mafubed, which I mean can't really happen. So this card is good in that sense, but I think it kind of is weak in the how easy to pull off category, and it's just you kind of have to be hoping that your opponent charges a 6, and then hitting 8 energy right now is kind of unfathomable to me, so I don't think that's very reliable. So worst case, it's just blue energy. It just helps you. It's another card to put in the deck because, you know, like Announcer has a bit of a restricted card pool, and yeah. Going to Super Saiyan 4 Son Goku. So it is an EX Evolve red, and place 2 cards from your hand to the drop area on a red Goku with an energy cost 6 or more. When this card attacks, it gains plus 5k power for duration of the turn, and if it's 60k or more, deals 1 damage to your opponent. And then active main, you can place 2 red cards from your hand to drop area, switch this card to active mode. So this card was good for like a week. There are a lot of like turn 1 win decks with Mecha Frieza that would just cheat energy, and then you'd be in the process of cheating energy, you take life, so you have a lot of cards in your hand, and you can just play this card and buff it up to really big strengths and just keep dealing 1 damage, whether, you know, it does anything or not, and your opponent's just sitting 1 energy, like, what do I do? So, so the searchability of this card is moderately high. There are a couple ways to search it, like, I think, does Grand Tour Spaceship find this card? Let me see. I forgot. Okay, it's only 15k LS. He's way higher. But I think there's a red Goku that finds him. No. I should really do research beforehand, right? Load. There's, yeah, this guy. Yeah, who looks up the top 7 for it, and which is pretty reasonable to do, I'd say. Oh, that's not. Where is it? Oh. Yeah, so he's mildly searchable. I'd say he's not as searchable as like Son Goku or Demigra. But the other thing is like the Frieza leader it was paired with was like really draw heavy for a lot of ways. So yeah, he's really good in that sense, and for the strength of the archetype, easy to pull off. So the only reason when he was played was because the archetype was really broken at the time, just because you could get out a 6-drop with 1 energy or 2 energy, which seems really stupid, but yeah, you could do that, and so he would be really strong because of that. And the strength of the card, just being able to do it is really good. Just being able to do damage without actually having to do damage is always a really good effect in this game, especially since there's not like any way to negate that or heals. And since you have 2 red cards from your hand to drop here, you can switch to active mode, that's fine. So originally when this card came out, it was really good, but then the core deck around it dropped off, and there hasn't been an archetype to fill its spot. There have been a couple of GT Gokus to think of, but it's really, I'd say the ease to pull off has kind of dropped for this card, which is why it hasn't been as good. Just because it's hard to... The EX Evolve is kind of tricky, and then additionally the having plus 20k on a card before EX Evolving onto this seems kind of tough to do. If you can do it, that's fine. If your deck is built around making that, it's fine. But I think you have to give up too much to make this card work, that it would take away from the consistency of the actual deck. There is a cost to add this deck to your deck, and you can't just splash it into a GT deck. So I think that's the big thing for this card, and I think that's why it's being played. I think it's not as the archetype is the strength of the archetype and how easy to pull off really drags us down. Next up is Vegeto. So I kind of already went over him, but I mean, so strength of the card, triple attack, triple strike, really good. He doesn't have barrier, which sucks, or anything like that, and so if you can just be Mafubed and you feel really bad. Searchability is really pitiful, especially when you think about the deck, and a lot of them probably like the, quick attack Vegeto. It's the 5-drop that drops the top 5, or sorry, top 10 from your deck to your drop area. And then chances are you'll probably hit this card and you just feel really bad about it. Additionally, it's a blue card, but you need 5 red energy, specific red energy. So it's really, unless you're playing the Vegeto leader, that's really cumbersome to do. So the strength of the archetype is really low, and how easy it is to pull off is really low. Because not only that, because you have to have a Son Goku and a Vegeta in your battle area with 5 red energy, ready to taps on with a draw 2 leader. I can keep going on why this card is hard to pull off, but yeah, it's hard to pull off, and the archetype isn't really good right now, and it's really hard to find it too. So it's hard to justify making a deck around this card when it's really hard to see him every game, and the deck around it without seeing it is really bad. And so that's why this card isn't really good. If you were able to consistently get off, it'd be really good. And but also you just lose the Crusher Ball, I think, too. Like, unless I don't know how to say it, but it's just like the biggest beat stick imaginable. So, and then lastly, Distant Descendant Son Goku. Searchability, I think his searchability is fine enough. It's probably lower mid, just because he's higher. He's not rank. He's level 8, so he can't be found with Successor of Hope. But there's a good amount of card draw and lineage decks and stuff like that. The strength of the archetype around him is actually pretty strong. I'd say he's really easy to pull off. But the thing about him is he's not very strong. He's a 40k triple strike, just like Demigra. But Demigra, negs 4 from their hand. This card, maybe does, I'll say rarely does 2 damage, because you have to have 5 or more cards in your combo with different names, and if that doesn't happen, then nothing happens. Whereas Demigra, when he attacks, even if it gets negated, you still get to combo those 4 cards, and that's really good. And you can just play this for 5. This needs a lot of setup. You need to have a 5-drop swap 8 in your battle area, which isn't terrible, and a lot of them have barriers, so it doesn't really matter anyways. But yeah, I don't think this card is really strong enough to justify it. And in the basic archetype, it will never get the effect off. And then if you build the card around this, I don't feel like the strength about it, the strength of the core deck around it, is strong enough to win when you don't see it, because you won't. It's a pretty good chance you won't see this card every game. So, yeah, and so let's go back to, if we go back to Miraculous Fighter Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta. Searchability, I'd say probably is its worst point, just because there's no way to actually search him out. You either find him or you don't. But the strength of the archetype and how easy to pull off, I'd say that is probably its strongest suit. The archetype is really strong. The win card is the 7-drop Gogeta. This is a bit of a more either win more or game extender, or just extender in the sense of oh, well, I didn't win with he drew a negate off his top 3. All right, I guess I'll just play this Gogeta for free and then keep attacking. And then he has 2 cards and they're crit and it's 40k, so you won't be able to combo over him and he won't be able to draw cards. That's really powerful. And then also the strength of the card is probably mid tier. It has strengths. But it's not. It's strong enough, I'd say. It's not to just be a 40k crit beat stick, and the fact that it doesn't. You don't have to give up anything in your deck building to put this card in. That is probably, once again, the strength of the archetype and how easy to pull off is why you play this card. Because sure, it doesn't do a lot, and a lot of the times it won't do anything, and a lot of the times you probably won't see it, and that's okay. But when you do see it, and you do need that little bit of a boost to win, it's there for you. And I think that's really good, and I think a lot of people are overlooking that. and I think this card will see play. It's probably, in terms of how good it is on this kind of generic scale, I don't think it's good enough against Victory Strike. I don't think people will make a deck specifically to play it. I think the deck is already there and it just fits into it, kind of like how Oob is. But unlike Oob, the card can be played a lot more easier. You don't have to have, it doesn't depend on your opponent's game state, which is the only reason why this card's bad. And then kind of like Demigra, just the fact that it hits the board in a swing for big amount is kind of the like it's kind of like Demigra because there's pseudo hand destruction, but like assuming that you get it off the 7-drop, right? So that's it from me. Let me know what you guys think below. Tell me how good Son Goku Jr. is and how wrong I am for besmirching how good he is. Let me know what you think about the secret rare, and I will catch you guys next time.